Hi everyone, my name's Anna McDougall and I became a software engineer in under a year with no computer science degree. If you want to find out how I did it, then stay tuned, because here it is. Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Anna McDougall. I'm an Australian living in Germany and I changed careers from an opera singer into a software engineer. Today I'm going to share with you how I did that. It's really important before I begin to say there are no guarantees that you can also do it in under a year. There are no guarantees that what worked for me will work for you. Nevertheless, I have made the career change myself as someone without a computer science degree into tech. I have spoken to literally hundreds of people about their tech career changes, and I know that there are some patterns and some qualities that will help you make the career change. So although I can't make any guarantees, I can say there are some common threads into what works for people. So I'm going to talk about me and my story and give you a few pointers based on that as to what might help you make a career change that little bit faster, that little bit more efficiently than you might otherwise. So with all of that said, let's get started and talk about how I ended up sitting here telling you this story today. Okay, let's go. So the first really important thing is that for me, I actually had an interest in tech already. I had learnt to make websites as a kid. I learnt HTML when I was 8. This is in the mid-90s. So I already had some interest in this and I had already had a little bit of experience in this. I also did software design for a year at school, but I dropped the subject. So there are a whole bunch of kind of little things that had already given me the idea that I would be good at this and that I would enjoy it. You might not have those experiences, but probably you have what I call the floating thought. I write about this more on my blog, but the floating thought for me was this thing that throughout my life, I was doing all these different things. I studied music, I did my master's, and I would go to parties and meet people who were in tech, like software engineers. I actually dated a software engineer for over a year as well, and I would meet them and I'd get really excited. I'd be like, oh wow, that's so cool. I know HTML from when I was a kid. So it was kind of like, I knew in my heart of hearts that I loved tech, and I got really excited from all these friends that I knew who were in tech, and I got excited from people who knew programming, but I never actually went out of my way to learn programming myself. And it was always this, as I said, this floating thought, this thing like, oh yeah, maybe one day I'll go back and try again. Maybe one day I'll give programming a try. Maybe one day when I have a bit more time, and it never really turned into anything. I never really did anything with this floating thought. But then, I was coming up, I think, into my 7th year as an opera singer, and I was pregnant with my child, and it occurred to me that because of some logistical things I had to consider if I wanted to continue to pursue opera as a career or music as a career, or if I wanted to try something different. There had been a few reasons why opera was no longer my passion or was no longer something I really wanted to pursue. On top of that, although the day-to-day work was excellent, like I loved dressing up and getting on stage and entertaining people and having fun and creating music, it was beautiful, but I couldn't deny the fact that I'm also a very ambitious person. So that was the push where I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to try something else. And then combine that push with this little floating thought that was hovering around, and I was like, oh, I guess maybe I could try coding, I could try programming again. So that's what led me to the Odin project. Now, I have a whole video about the Odin project, you can look at it up there. I love the Odin project, I'm a huge fan. Someone actually sent it to me in a mum's Facebook group, so it's totally random how I found it, but it kind of doesn't matter. I found it, and it's a free curriculum. You basically go through, it's mostly reading, so I don't actually, weirdly enough, like learning through videos. I prefer learning through text, so that was great for me. It had a great Discord community, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a solid shot. COVID was just starting to really kick in Germany where I live, and we were just going into lockdown. Now, this is of course normally a bad thing, but for me personally, I was coming out of my maternity leave, and this meant that both I and my husband had the time to kind of split shift with my child, and that meant that I could dedicate every single morning to learning to code. So I was spending between 3 and 6 hours every day for about 60 days. I sat down and I just taught myself to code. Now, the little bit of HTML experience that I had really helped me a lot in the early stages, but it quickly became completely irrelevant because CSS changed everything that I knew from when I was a kid. And throughout this time, I was also interacting a lot in the Discord community, checking what I was learning, troubleshooting when I had problems. And I was getting a lot of really good feedback from people in that community that I was learning quickly, that the material was good that I was submitting, and that was very reassuring. To give you some idea of the mental challenges I was facing at the time, you have to remember my image of what tech is or was like just young, mostly white dudes sitting in their basements. I didn't expect people to be very welcoming of me. I didn't think I had much of a chance. I didn't think someone would hire a mum in her 30s in a tech company. I was like, why would they want me? They want some young hotshot dude who's gonna like walk in there and like have that swagger and be able to convince them I'm not that person. And being involved in this Discord community really gave me that reassurance, because I did have people who were saying to me, no, like, what you're doing is good. You can provide value here. You can actually create things that other people need, and they will pay you for that. And that was kind of a bit of an aha moment for me. The other great thing about this Discord community, I kind of just started myself doing a daily log in there, and I combined this with the 100 Days of Code hashtag on Twitter. So I'll try to put in here somewhere. Yeah. It's very weird before you're in editing to kind of just point at random blank spaces, but hopefully it makes sense later. Here. Some of the journal entries that I did in that time about what I was learning and how I was learning it. As I said, I combined this with the 100 Days of Code challenge on Twitter, and that got me involved in the tech Twitter community. And these two things combined really gave me that reassurance, gave me that support. On Twitter, Angie Jones and Catalin Pitt are two people I was following a lot who are both really big on blogging and really encouraged me to get started. It was mostly Angie Jones. I think she put out some tweet that was like, even if you're a beginner, just write about what you're learning, because maybe it'll provide value to someone. And I thought, you know what, sure, why not? I'm a good writer, I have a journalism degree, I'll write about what I'm learning. So I did, and it was like just really awesome, because as I was learning things, by writing about them at the same time, I was learning them more deeply, and I was making sure I really understood what was going on. I was also writing a little bit about myself, and that helped me solidify to myself why I was on the right path. So one of the things I always encourage new coders to do, or anyone who wants to make a career change in this way, make a blog, tweet, use Instagram, like whatever method you like. Like it could even just be Facebook posts or LinkedIn posts, anything like that. Just talk about what you're doing, summarize it for other people. You can make little cheat sheets, whatever works for you, by creating content for other people actually helps solidify what you learn. And so I feel like that helped me to learn the content more deeply in a way that I probably wouldn't have if I just kind of sped through it doing the bare minimum. So yeah, I'd say that's one of the solid pieces of advice I would give you as well. Now here it's really important for me to say that things are a little more old-fashioned here in Germany than they are in some other countries. So maybe right now you're watching this in the UK or Australia or the USA, Canada, New Zealand. Most of those countries are a bit more open-minded when it comes to career changes. I will say in general, Germany is not. I have a whole video about finding a tech job in Germany. So if you're also in Germany like me, check it out up there. And hopefully that will give you a bit more guidance in that regard. But what I did when I was starting to think about finding a job, so I was about, at this point, 2 to 3 months into learning, and I started calling people and messaging people who were in tech in Leipzig, which is where I live. And I said, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm really interested in making this a career. Like, what do you think, basically? And a lot of what I was hearing is, we can't trust people who are self-taught because we have no idea if you're teaching yourself well. There's no proof. There's no one we can talk to who can tell us if you're good to work with or if you're producing quality content or quality code. So this was kind of the feedback I was getting, and that made me decide, okay, well, I'm not going back to uni, right? I'm a mum in my 30s. I'm not going back to do a computer science degree. It's not going to happen. So what options do I have? And I started looking into different things that exist in the German system. And so I had to start thinking in terms of boot camps. I found a boot camp, but you had to pay for it yourselves. And then I found that actually there existed a very special program here through a course provider called DCI, Digital Career Institute, and they do a 1-year web development course. And that is supported or paid for by the government if the government can be convinced that you doing this course will get you a job, basically. So I was already on government benefits because of my maternity leave and because I was therefore unemployed from my previous job in opera. So that meant that I was able to get government support. I feel very, very lucky, but I was able to get government support to do this 1-year course. I signed up for this course knowing that I would be a little bit ahead, right? Because I'd already done these 2 months of study by myself, or a bit more by that point, I think, actually. But nevertheless, I was like, it's fine. Pretty soon the course will catch up to where I'm at, and then I'll start learning a lot more stuff. The problem was that I was ahead, and because I was ahead and super interested and engaged and looking at other things, it meant that I kind of stayed ahead for the entire course. So I was learning this material from the teachers as I was supposed to, doing the exercises, etc. But I was also helping the other students to learn. So what ended up happening is that DCI offered me a job as the course tutor. So that's kind of like not the teacher, but the kind of person who steps in. We had like 1-hour sessions each day, and I could step in there and kind of help people to learn more. And that was my role. So I was learning, but also teaching. And I also took this as an opportunity to learn the teamwork elements of coding. It is one of the things I'm always talking about is how underestimated people's skills are for new coders. People come into coding, they come into programming, and they think, I just need to learn how to program. I need to learn JavaScript or Python or whatever. And yeah, you do, but you can't just learn that. You also need to learn how to work with other people. And that's one of the things I actually feel like I took away from this course more than anything else. So that was the course. It was a full-time course, I should have mentioned. So that was like Monday to Thursday, 9 to 5 or 9 to 4, I think it was. So really a full-time thing, and that took up pretty much my whole week. But did allow me to, I suppose, stay in touch with other developers, see what was confusing other people, and that actually also allowed me to start creating better blog content, because I was talking every day to people who were struggling with these topics, and therefore I got an idea of what I could write about for them. So that was kind of how I got even more into this content side of things, and started boiling down into what I liked writing about and who I liked talking to online. This in turn kind of led me to Francesco Ciullon on Twitter, who really encouraged me to start making YouTube videos. So you can thank him for this video in the end, but he really encouraged me to start making YouTube videos, and I started with this JavaScript in under 3 minutes series. I have a playlist that has all of these things that just like explaining little teeny tiny core JavaScript concepts, array methods, these kinds of things in under 3 minutes. And those videos also helped me distill and solidify my knowledge of JavaScript. So that's kind of the training side of things and the content side of things. So I think the two big points here is that I had to learn the tech, which I was doing. I had to learn the people skills, which I was doing. But I was also creating content. I was also networking. I was getting to know people in Leipzig through my inquiries about jobs in the job market here. I was also getting to know people in tech generally through both Twitter and blogging. So that's kind of like the first, how I see kind of like the first big stage of my development, and that took me from about March to December. So let's get into the second bit, which was about how I actually went from this knowledge and these people skills into getting a job. The truth is that my job search kind of started accidentally. It started accidentally, but then it became very purposeful. But in the first place, what happened is that it was New Year's Eve, and I tweeted out to my followers, I'm really excited that this is going to be the year that I get my first developer job, something along those lines. And I was thinking when my course finishes, which was June 2021, July 2021, but someone saw that tweet who I had met in a completely different life back when I was streaming video games. And he saw this tweet and sent me a message and said, hey, actually my company is hiring front-end developers. Maybe you should apply. Let them know that that I sent you, because I met you a few years ago and, you know, I'm sure it would be a great fit. I was like, oh, okay, crap. I didn't have a CV, didn't have a portfolio website. So I really had to think about what to do there. So I quickly put together a really rough CV in English, of course, but then they came back to me and they were like, we don't actually see any examples of your code. Is there something, like, do you have a portfolio site? And I was like, oh crap. So I took 1 week to kind of whip up this portfolio website, and I chucked a YouTube video on there that kind of introduced myself. But, you know, it was for YouTube. It wasn't like a proper introduction for employers. And so I decided, oh, okay, hang on. Like, you know, I know how to make videos. Let's go back a few steps. I will record a video specifically for employers in Germany or in the EU, answering their questions that I'm likely to get. So, how good is my German? Could I learn a different tech stack? You know, what experience do I have, etc., etc. So I went and I did that. This is actually something that I had seen recommended by a recruiter called Taylor Desane. If you don't know his content, you have to check him out. I'll put a link in the descriptions. He's really awesome. He has a lot of great ideas, great content for how to put yourself out there in the tech world. And one of the things he recommended was create a little video introducing yourself, because it's like a first interview. People watch it, they don't have to set up anything with you, they just get to see a first interview with you and get to know you, and you have an opportunity there to sell yourself to them. So I took that idea, I rolled with it, I made this video, I put it on the portfolio website, but I also tweeted it out. And this is when things went a little bit nutty.
Hello, My name is Anna McDougall and I'm a full-stack developer completing my accreditation in web development with Digital Career Institute in Germany.
I put this thing up on Twitter. I said, hey, retweet this, my followers. I never ask my followers to retweet my stuff. So the fact that I asked it here, I think helped. Because if I was asking them every single day, retweet this, promote me, I don't think they would. But the fact that I had never asked for anything in return and then one day said, hey guys, I need you on this one, that got the tweet out there. So people did retweet it, and through these retweets, I got a lot of leads. I had a lot of people in my inbox saying, apply to this job, apply to that job. I work at this company, you should apply there. My company has an office in Berlin, you should try that one. And among all of these, there was a message from the managing director of Novatech. He and I spoke literally 2 days later, and we were just chatting, just talking for like 2 hours, getting to know each other. It was an amazing chat, and then a week later I had another interview with them, and the rest is history. They were an amazing company, and I took the position as a junior software engineer with them, based out of their Berlin office, but mostly working remotely. So it happened really quickly in the end. This, I want to say, is not typical. Most of the time, people are applying for a very, very long time before they find a position that they want, or even a position at all. But I actually want to loop back and say the reason that it happened so quickly is because I had this network on Twitter, because I had built good relationships with people based on them and their interests, and helping them and providing interesting content for them that was, helpful, useful. It's what I still do even now, but so it kind of comes naturally to me, but at the same time, that was a huge part of it. So this early part of learning the skills, right, that I did, but then on top of that, I created a brand image for myself as someone who was helpful, as someone who was very friendly and a little bit quirky, a little bit strange, but overall helpful, and I created this image for myself, and I helped a lot of other people, and I created this content. I tweeted, I chatted, I sent messages, I was in Discord groups and Twitter chat groups and all kinds of stuff, and it's through all of that then when the time came that I had this video introducing myself and saying, hey, I want a job, this huge wave of support was behind me. So I think this is something I really want to communicate to you. This is the big thing I want to communicate to you, that you don't need a computer science degree, but you do need to be able to prove to people that you know what you're talking about, right? Because the last thing a company wants is to hire someone who's just like, I love code, but then they actually are not any good at it, or they're not good at communicating with others, or they don't know how to write a loop properly or something. I don't know. But the point is, the only way you can prove to those companies that you are not a risk, right, is to have this bunch of material like a blog, like Twitter, like LinkedIn, whatever, that can show, hey, I know this, look, here I speak about this, here I speak about that. And then because you've worked with people, because you've networked and created communities, you have people who are really willing to back you up and say, yes, this person is awesome, right? In the case of Germany, I had the extra benefit of having the certificate, but I actually feel like the certificate and the course that I did was actually the least important part in many ways of what I learned and of how I could prove my value to Novatech or to any company. But in Germany, as I said, they are a bit more old-fashioned, and having that piece of paper, having that proof was really important. But I will say that the computer science degree, right, it represents a lack of risk for companies. So if you, without that degree, represent a risk, you have to disprove that risk, or you have to try to show them that risk isn't worth taking. And you do that by having this body of content behind you, by having recommendations behind you, by having projects you can show. And it doesn't hurt if you're good in front of a camera, but of course that not everyone is, and that's also fine if you're not. But regardless, being out there, talking to people, proving your value, and helping other people to get their start, all of this stuff adds up, and it will help you in the same way it helped me. I started on the Odin project in March 2020. I started my first day at Novatech March the 1st, 2021. So I did it in a year, in under a year, all thanks to these things that I've spoken about today. I hope that that helps you in some way. I hope that you feel empowered to get started, to learn, to help others, to communicate, to talk. You can do it. Absolutely, you can. It is not too late. They will accept you. You got this. I hope you found this video useful, and I look forward to hearing more from you in the future. Okay, thanks so much. Bye.